For a long time, a lot of us thought the global financial system was basically just plumbing. A bunch of pipes connecting people who save money with people who want to invest it. Simple, right? Well, it turns out we were dead wrong. A series of pretty devastating crises showed us that finance isn't passive plumbing at all. It's this powerful, almost living system that can turbocharge incredible growth and also catastrophic collapse. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into how we can shift that system from being inherently fragile to being intentionally resilient.
I mean, can you imagine? This quote right here, this was the moment the old world just shattered. You've got Alan Greenspan, who was basically the high priest of free markets, admitting in 2008 that his whole worldview, the one that shaped the global economy, was flawed. It was this absolutely stunning confession that the models we all trusted were broken. We desperately needed a new way of thinking.
You see, the 2008 crisis wasn't just another dip in the market. It completely changed the game. It pulled back the curtain and revealed that these systems we thought were rock solid were actually, well, incredibly fragile when things got tough. It forced all of us to face a really complex and uncomfortable truth about how modern finance actually works. And at the heart of this whole new understanding is this one key idea: reflexivity. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It just means that finance isn't a mirror that just reflects the economy. Nope, it's an active player. Think of it like this. When investors feel good, they borrow more. That pushes asset prices up, which, you guessed it, makes them feel even more confident. The system literally creates its own reality, for better and, as we've seen, for much, much worse. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll look at finance as this double-edged sword. Then we're going to dissect what makes it so fragile. After that, we'll see how a local problem can become a global nightmare. And finally, we'll get to the good stuff, how we can actually design a system that's built to last. All right, let's dive right in. We're going to start with the big paradox at the center of it all: how finance has this incredible power to both create massive prosperity and, at the same time, generate absolute panic. So here's the crucial shift in thinking. Finance isn't just plumbing, it's an amplifier. It takes whatever's happening, good or bad, and cranks the volume up to 11. The very same things that fuel amazing growth when times are good become these super highways for fear and contagion when confidence shatters. It can build us up and tear us down with, frankly, terrifying speed. And let's be totally clear, we absolutely need finance. I mean, it is the engine of our modern economy. But look at all these essential things it does. They are all built on one single, fragile, and totally invisible foundation: competence. And when that foundation cracks, the whole building is in danger of coming down. So how does this fragility even build up in the first place? Well, here's the wild part. The seeds of a crisis are almost always planted during the good times, when everything feels stable and calm and we all get a little bit too comfortable. Let's take a look at the anatomy of that fragility. The real driver of fragility isn't some random shock from the outside. No, it's a self-reinforcing cycle that the system creates all by itself. Optimism leads to more borrowing, which inflates asset prices, which creates even more optimism. It's a boom that feels like it will never, ever end, right up until the moment it does. Let's break down exactly how this financial accelerator works. So it starts with everyone feeling good. They buy assets, pushing prices up. Now, because their assets are worth more, they can go to the bank and borrow more money. That's what we call leverage. And what do they do with that new money? They pour it back into the market, pushing prices even higher. You see that loop? But when the mood changes, that whole machine slams hard into reverse. And that same leverage that felt so good on the way up just viciously magnifies the losses on the way down. These cycles create a few major weak spots. You've got the credit and leverage boom we just talked about. Then there's something called pro-cyclical liquidity, which is just a fancy way of saying that when the party's going, it's super easy to get a drink, but the second things go south, the bar shuts down completely. You also get these really dangerous mismatches, like borrowing for 30 days to fund a 30-year project. And finally, you get this toxic relationship where a struggling government can pull down its banks, and struggling banks can pull down their government. You know that classic scene in the movies, people lining up around the block to pull their cash out of a bank? Well, that bank run hasn't gone away. It's just gone digital, and it's gotten way, way faster. Instead of a line for cash, it's now a silent, high-speed run on something called collateral, these super safe assets that are the bedrock of the modern system. When panic hits, everyone tries to grab that safe stuff at once, and the whole system can just freeze solid.
So we've seen how fragility builds up from the inside. But in today's world, problems almost never stay local. A small fire in one corner of the globe can become a worldwide inferno. Now let's look at how that happens. Think about how fast a bad rumor spreads on social media. Financial panic is even faster. In our hyper-connected world, a problem in one market can infect the entire global system in a matter of hours, not days. The very same networks that create so much opportunity also act as the perfect transmission lines for financial contagion. So how does the fire spread so quickly? Well, there are a few key pathways. First, all the big global banks are kind of drinking from the same water supply, so if it gets poisoned for one, it's bad for everyone. Second, a lot of investors all over the world own the same stuff, so a big sell-off in one place can trigger a domino effect everywhere else. And finally, you can get a sudden shift in global risk appetite. It's like the entire world wakes up one morning and decides, we hate risk today. That causes a massive stampede for the exits. All of this synchronized behavior is what we call the global financial cycle. It's like a massive global tide of money and confidence. And that tide can be way more powerful than what any single country is doing at home. But when that tide goes out, well, that's when you find out who's been swimming without their trunks on, no matter how strong their local economy seemed. Okay, this all sounds pretty bleak, doesn't it? If these destructive cycles are just baked into the system, are we just doomed to lurch from one crisis to the next forever? Well, the answer is no. And this is where the story gets really interesting, because our whole way of thinking about this has started to change. And that brings us to our final section, designing for resilience. This is a whole new way of looking at the problem. It's not about trying to prevent every single storm, but about building a system that's strong enough to survive them when they inevitably show up. I love this metaphor because it just nails the new approach. Look, we can't stop it from raining. Financial storms are going to happen. They're a natural part of the system. But what we can do is build a much, much stronger roof. The goal is to build a financial architecture that can actually weather the storm. So what do we really mean by resilience? Well, think of a skyscraper built in an earthquake zone. It's not designed to be totally rigid, because rigid things snap under pressure. It's designed to be flexible, to sway and absorb the energy of the shock without collapsing. That's resilience. It's about building a system that can bend so it doesn't break. So how do we actually build this? Well, it rests on 5 key pillars. We need buffers, which is basically having more financial shock absorbers, like extra capital in banks. We need transparency, so we can actually see where the big risks are hiding before they blow up. We need the system to be adaptable, because finance is always evolving. We need rock-solid trust in our institutions. And finally, we need coordination across borders because, as we saw, these problems are global. And this right here, this is the big takeaway for policymakers. The job has to change from being firefighters who are constantly putting out the latest crisis to being architects who are focused on building a stronger structure in the first place. You don't manage every little up and down. You focus on building a robust system before the storm hits. And ultimately, that's the challenge. We can't eliminate risk from a dynamic, innovative system. And honestly, we wouldn't want to. That's where growth and new ideas come from. The real goal is to build a financial ecosystem that's smart enough and strong enough to handle that risk when it inevitably shows up. So I'll leave you with this final thought. We've made the big intellectual leap. We understand that we need to build for resilience. But the question is, are we actually doing the hard work of building that system with foresight? Or are we just getting comfortable again, quietly waiting for the next storm to hit? The choice and the work is up to all of us.